Okay folks, here we go. We're going to be changing the grille on this Honda Civic here. We're going to start off by taking off these clips here. These clips here. Boop, 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 boop. All of these have to come out. I'll show you how to take them out in a sec. And then we got to raise up the vehicle. There's more underneath. And I'll show you what you have to do. You have to take this bumper off of the vehicle before you take the grille off of the bumper. They are attached to each other. Okay, so there are 3 different kinds of clips on this car. To get this one out here, which is probably the one you'll see the most. Let's focus. There we go. You're going to want to go in between the edges here with a flat blade thin screwdriver, open it up. You can keep going around the edge with a thin screwdriver like this, but to make things go faster and easier, since I'm doing this one-handed, I use a little tool. It's a little clip tool, and it works really nicely. It's just basically to get around this little bit here, pop it out. There you go. There's one, and then we got let's see. These ones are pretty easy too. They're literally like just pop in and pop out. So you gotta get thin grip on there. Thin screwdriver, there we go. Pop them out slowly. I probably want to use 2 hands to get underneath this, but you use the other tool, like I said, or another screwdriver. Once you've wedged this open, you get another one on the other side or underneath this wedge, and then pull up from there. And then this one here, pretty easy. You can see it's got a little space for you to pop this side, and then it popped out really easily, but you put another blade on the other side, pop it out, maybe both at the same time, and then you just pull this. It's a 2-piece, this one here. So you pop this top part out and it comes off, and you'll see it's a 2-piece. It's got a piece that you insert and then this piece that you pull out. So there's the 2-piece. You push this piece in, you see these flaps. Hold on, my gloves are kind of dark, but if you can see, these flaps pop out, and they pop out when you push this little pin in there. So you push this in the little hole. Once these are all pushed in, this will go in a lot nicer. Push it in. All the flaps need to be like pushed back in again so that they're not wide open like that. And then you can basically push this other one into there. There you go. That's how you put that one back on. These ones are really easy. The one that I told you that is just a pop in, pop out. You can see it just pops in, pops out. Let's see, and then you just push it in there. Boop, boop. And then this one, which is also a 2-piece, you don't have to separate it because it's a little bit wider. You just push these in a little bit. Don't push, crazy hard and break anything. But you just push it into the hole. Second piece is attached, so you just push it in all the way. Make sure it goes down all the way flush. You can see that the second piece is still popped out. Just pop it back in. That's how it goes. To put them back in. Now I'm going to go around and take all of these out now. As you can see, this is the one that's on the outside that's a little bit different. Most of these are going to be this 2-piece that you don't have to fully separate. If you want, you can just take off these clips here on this section, because this is 1 piece here. And then this is a different plastic piece. Actually, this is rubber. But I'm just going to take them all out. That way we're kind of getting ahead of the game. And I'll show you what to do after that. Just so that you know, they go all the way around the car. Obviously, you're going to want to take all of these out. I don't have someone to hold the camera for me, so I'm not going to show you every single piece. But all of these rivets do have to come out of here. So you got here, 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 here. It's pretty obvious which ones need to be taken out. Here, 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 and here. So, just going to show you here. If you come up to these, you can see that these pop out really easily. You only have to kind of go from one side really to get it popped open. Once it's popped open like that, you can pull the rest of the top tab out, and then just keep pulling on it, and it pulls the whole thing out. So once you take all the clips out, and you can see that I've taken all the clips out here, you can literally just pull this top piece off. It just comes literally right off. Probably want to shake that off, wipe the dust off of it. There's a rubber piece here where all of those clips came off of. Again, you can just literally pull the whole thing off. Try to keep this in the same orientation that it came off of the car. That way you don't forget the way it went on. And it also goes right back on, nice and easy. Here we are above the vehicle. We're going to come around the side here. Whoop. And there are some Phillips screws right here and right here. We're going to take those out on both sides. There's also one, where is it? Up here, that I don't believe have to actually touch. So we only need to take off these two bottom ones below this reflector right here. So I just took off the two screws on the other side. I'm going to take off the two on this side. They are Phillips head screws. Pretty easy to get to, pretty easy to take off. Doing this one-handed, it's really not that hard. It's kind of nice too, because some cars you might even have to pick up the wheel and get it out of the way. Pick up the car, take the wheel off, get it out of the way, but in this case we don't. Because they designed it. I don't know if they designed it like this on purpose, but it just so happens that you don't have to take the wheel off the car, which is nice. Some cars you do. Top one's a little bit stiffer. Have to come at a very slight angle for this top one, so just make sure that you got your screwdriver on there and it's got a good bite on it. Again, you don't have to do the screw that's up top there, just these two bottom ones below the turn signal. Alright, let's speed this up now a little bit. Don't worry about this bumper falling off right now, by the way, because it actually is clipped in up top, so you don't have to lay anything down right now on the ground, you know, before you take it off. So now we're going to raise the vehicle up in the air so that we can get underneath the bumper, because we've got to take out some clips that are underneath the bumper as well. I do recommend putting jack stands up, because you can't trust a jack, because most jacks, if you're using a good one, are hydraulic, and the fluid eventually either leaks out or an air bubble develops. You don't want to be underneath the car when your jack goes out. So definitely use jack stands every time you raise up a vehicle. So now, with the vehicle up on a jack stand, I left the jack underneath too, just in case, but all the pressure's off the jack. Jack's there as a precaution. You have more of these clips here underneath the bumper. There we go. You have a 10mm on both sides on the very end. You also have, where is it? So there's that 10mm back there. You got a whole bunch of these clips here, and right here you have an Allen. I can tell you the size in just a moment when I grab the tool, but these go all the way down to the other side, and you only have one Allen on either side and one 10mm on either side. Pretty easy. And these are the same clips that you had up top. I already popped these two. You just pop them out with a screwdriver, a flat blade, or you know, if you have one of those clip tools, same thing. You just pull it out by hand once you've popped it open. So these Allens here, although it is an Allen head, you can also use a Torx bit. So I'm using here a T30. A T30 does work. This is what I have handy next to me. And a T30 does fit in there, and it does properly take this off. And as you can see, I'm not using a power tool or anything. This, you know, taking it out by hand with this screwdriver that just so happens to have a Torx bit on the end of it. If you don't know what a Torx bit is or a Torx head is, I can show you if my camera ever focuses. There we go. It's one of these. So some people call it a star head. It's known as a Torx, but a T30 will do the job. For those that don't have Torx bits, I can grab an Allen later on, and I'll find out what Allen size fits this head here, and I'll let you know with a link in the description, or I can also probably just leave a little video for you as well toward the end of the video. Okay, now with all of the clips taken out from the top and from the bottom, there's actually these little tabs inside of these holes here. They're not the places where you took the clips from, but they're these little slots right here, one there, on the other side. We got here, and we got here. And there's these little tabs that you just got to push on. It's hard to see down in there, but you pretty much just have to, let's see here. There we go. It's almost straight down. Like on this one here, on the outer one over here, I can see it. It's a little almost rectangular shaped tab. You just have to push on it. While pushing, you have to push on the tab while pulling away on this chrome piece here. As you can see, there's this chrome bit right there. Other side here. You kind of just want to pull away on this while pushing on the tab. So I'm going to try to push on it. I'm going to put the screwdriver in my mouth and push on the tab and then pull away. Hopefully I'm able to do that. If I push on the tab, see there it is. Like I'm going to push on the tab. Actually, you know what? I can do this with one hand, I think. Oh, it's really shiny right there. Pushing on the tab and pulling away at the same time. Really, you can see that it came off a little bit. Goes back in. Pushing on the tab and pulling away at the same time. There you go. This one's already popped out. Let's go over here to this side. There we go, pushing on the tab while pulling away. Easier said than done with one hand. Hold on. There we go. We gotta do it on this side now too. Now just be aware that you have to be gentle with this, because not every single rectangular shape down there is going to be a tab that you'll need to push down on. For instance, on this hole here, the inner one, there's a little rectangular shape on the right, and there's one on the left. You're going to want to push down on the big fatter one that's down to the left. I'm going to have to put my camera down to do this one, I think, but you're going to, like I said, push down while pulling away. Okay, so with the top and the bottom clips off, and this chrome piece is detached now. Again, there's a tab here while you pry, tab here while you pry on this part. It doesn't appear to be a tab on this one right here, but there does appear to be one here. You can see visibly there isn't one there on this car. It doesn't look like it was broken or anything. It just looks like there wasn't one. And so once this is loose, we're almost ready to take the bumper off. There are some tabs underneath here where the bumper is still held on. I believe there's a little tab here and a little tab like right here on both sides. You want to be delicate because you are prying between the bumper and this turn signal here. Some people will want to use a wedge because it's plastic. It's, you know, better for delicate spots like this. But you might not find that you're getting the bite on this properly. So a really, really thin screwdriver. I have this screwdriver here that's a little bit curved. And so it's a little bit easier to grab on the tab going in like this. And so there's a tab that you're going to want to push down on, and it'll release the bumper. And when you slide it in there, push it down, and once this one releases, this one becomes easier to get. It's mainly this one here that you're trying to pull off. I'm going to need both hands to do this though. So the tab, as you can see, is right here. It's not a little bit over here, it's more here. And you'll be able to see when you're prying this out, if you look in between the gap, you'll be able to see there's a little bit of a hole there where you can push down. Don't be fooled by there looks to be like two tabs right here. You want to push down on this one. You'll see darkness where it actually has a little bit of a hole. The tab is just barely in there, and you can see that pops right back in and pops out. So, you know, put a screwdriver about right there and push down on the tab while pulling away on the bumper. I'll try to show you on the other side too, but once this tab here is out, this is flexing enough to where you can kind of pull the rest of the tabs out. You can see there's one right there where my hand is. You can see there's more all along the way, and you can kind of slowly pull these off. Here we are, other side. Again, you're going to want to, the tab should be somewhere about here. Then you want to, again, you want to pry back on the bumper while pushing down on this tab, and then I'll show you the rest of it once I get to there, but you're going to want to push down at about here. So I do like to use a wedge for this part. If you're pulling on the bumper, I'm going to try to show you here. It's hard to do with one hand, but if you're pulling on the bumper here, you'll start to notice that underneath the headlight there's these tabs. And so if you keep pulling on the bumper, you'll see that there's actually tabs underneath the headlight here too. You should be able to just pry the bumper away, keeping something in the way of the bumper, because you don't want to pull too hard on the bumper. There's some fog light connectors that are relatively short, and when you pull the bumper off of the car, if you pull too far and too hard, it could mess up the wiring of those fog lights. So you want to probably put your body or your knee in the way of it when you're pulling it off. That way you don't mess up those wires. It's hard to show you with one hand, but there's a tab here, here, and here. If you pull those off while you're prying back, it'll gently take off the bumper a little bit nicer, and you'll feel a little bit better about it than just pulling the whole thing off. So here I am. I got my hand here pulling on the bumper. There is a tab there. When you're pulling on the bumper like this, and you look through, you can't see it on the camera, but if you look through, you will be able to see the tab. It's about there, and there's another one about there, and you start working your way through, down, and you'll be able to see them. Okay, at some point when you're pulling on these tabs, you might want to have someone on the other side to help you lift the bumper up. As you pull on the tabs, you can start releasing some across the way, but this is designed at a certain point to just be able to pull off of the car. Kind of like, it's already been unclipped, so I can just pull this sucker off, but there is kind of an abrupt force when you pull it off of each side, when you pull it away. This car doesn't have fog lights, so I didn't have to worry about the wires, but when you pull it away, it does pry off with a little bit of force. There's clips that hold it in all along the headlight, and things like that. So you're going to want to just, eventually they're designed to just pry off when you pull the bumper away. So you will eventually have to do that. But if you pull some of these, if you pry on it a little bit as you go, you can get to some of these along the way, and you run less risk of breaking any of the clips. So I put a blanket down, that way I can face the front of the bumper on the floor without actually damaging or scratching the bumper. Part of the reason why we're replacing the grille is because of damage, so you don't want to damage it any further. There's the horrendous mess you see after you take off the bumper, but this is pretty simple to get off these ends right here. Sorry if the light is not very good, I'm out working outside. These are the chrome tabs. I took one off already just so I could show you what I'm talking about here. These are the chrome little side pieces that go like right here on the car. They are attached to the bumper, but it's very simple to get them off. They have these slots that they kind of slide into, and to actually get it off, there is a tab right here. You just push this tab in. If you're looking at it closely, you can tell the tab comes up like this and has a little bit of a hook right here. You just push in on that, and it should slide this chrome piece off. That's the only thing holding this on now. As you can see, this is all the whole thing moves a little, but this is really janky. It's the only thing holding it on is that one little clip right now. This is what I'm talking about here. No, that's not. There it is. This is the clip, the little, as you can see, the little slide that goes in there. It goes into that little hole. When you're putting it in, same thing. You just hook it back up, line everything up to where these little tabs are running true, sliding into their orifices. Here we go, and it just pops right in. And when you're unclipping it, little suggestion: this piece with the hook on it, it's actually stronger than this piece on the grill. You probably just want to slide your screwdriver in between this little tiny piece that's on the grill and push this inward rather than actually pushing on the this little hook right here. It's probably easier to pull this little tab away like this and then let this slide down. I can't do it with two hands. So again, suggestion: when you're prying this piece back, get the screwdriver in between this, pry this back while pushing this little chrome piece downward. Push this downward while pulling this tab inward here. Something else to mention is most people are replacing this top grill piece. There's the new one over there. They're most of the time replacing this top grill piece, but there is a bottom grill piece, and you need to do the exact same stuff we just did, except there's a screw here and a screw here, and there's these little tabs right here. Focus. There we go. That you pry back. You can pull up on this plastic here or push down on this plastic here. Combination of both works too. And then you push the grill out the front. You push it. Hold on, focus. There we go. Push it out the front while pushing down all these tabs. Once these are all unclipped, you can just push this down. That small grill piece comes out. That grill piece is good on this car, so we're not replacing that. So here we are, grill on the ground. We're going to want to take off these two Phillips heads on either side. There's actually 8 total for this grill. One here. Already took some out. One here, here, up here, and then of course this one on the end as well. Make sure all of those are off. There's these little plastic tabs here that you might have to push up on. These usually aren't much of an issue. Let's see, this side's actually broken, so this won't be an issue on this car. But yeah, to pull up on these tabs, take out those screws, grill piece should come right off. So I did forget one little thing here. It is kind of dark, it's hard to see, but there's a foam piece. Here we are at the grill. Foam piece right up here. You want to carefully pull this foam piece off. Might have to get both hands on this. You don't want to mess that up because you're going to want to put that back on with like a little bit of adhesive, maybe some 3M, maybe a 3M strip or a couple of dabs of like some proper glue for it. But you want to take off this rubber piece right here. It's actually a foam, but yeah, you want to take that off for sure. So I used a flat blade screwdriver on this end, and it was able to start the process. Once I got it off, it kind of nice and easily came off on this side here. Just be very gentle with it. I know the ends are a little bit stuck at first, but if you're very gentle, you can get them all off. And then there's these little tiny tabs right here that are also holding the grill on. You want to make sure those can come off in order to get this grill piece off. You might have to push them through, you might have to pry them a little bit, but those are helping hold the grill on. You can actually push each of these tabs up by hand or with a screwdriver. I think by hand's kind of nice because you don't mess anything up, but if you need to, use a small flat blade screwdriver as well. Alright, here's the new grill. I have this standing up now. It was face down, but I have it standing up a little bit now so that you can see. I want these tabs on the bottom of this grill. This is really hard to see. You want these tabs on the bottom of the grill. I can see them going back into their places on the bumper. Make sure you don't mess that up. As you can see, you can kind of just rest the bottom of the grill right here on the license plate, lining up these things. So you can't rest them and then slide them in. You're going to have to rest them as a reference point, and then you can kind of tilt it, lift it up and tilt it, and then slide it back in. I'm going to have to use both hands for this part. So with the license plate on the car, it appears that the grill doesn't really want to go back on properly. So we're just going to take the we're going to take the license plate off. We're going to start off by taking off the cover. If we have to take the other piece off too, it's no big deal. It's 2 screws to take off the license plate cover, 2 screws to take off the license plate backing. It's really not that hard. And it'll make it much, 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 much easier putting it back in. So there's the license plate cover. We're going to go ahead and just take off, where's my screwdriver? These 2 Phillips heads right here and here. And this will make it a lot easier to get the grill back on. I'll show you in just a sec. So now with the license plate off the car, what we had was it was covering too far. Getting it out was not a problem. Putting it back in, you don't have the spacing you need to get the bottom of the grill back on. So I took off the license plate and the license plate backing in order to make it easier to put it on. We're going to want to put, there might not necessarily be like a perfect way to do this, but I'm going to start off by hooking it on the bottom, just hooking it in place, and then bringing the top so that I can put the top clips on. And then once it's clipped in a little bit, the grill and the bumper will start holding itself together a little bit easier, and it'll make it easier to work on. Once the license plate and the backing is off the car, you can come around the back here, make sure all these tabs are going in the right spot on the bottom. And once it kind of sits on its spot, the tabs are starting to go in. It literally, it'll just practically hold itself right there. Before it wasn't doing that with the license plate and the backing on there. It was pushing itself off. Now you can put it on a lot easier. So I recommend, once you've got the grill actually, it's really hard to see in there. Once you got the grill actually on the car, I recommend pushing in the bottom tabs first and then pushing on the top pieces after, and then putting a couple of screws back on the grill on this side, like maybe here or here, just a couple of screws to hold it in place before you flip it back over and start putting everything back together on the grill. So I just put a screw there before I flipped it. I didn't put them in all the way. I just put them in a little bit just so that it holds the grill in place. You don't want to put them in all the way in case all the holes aren't matched up properly, and you end up having to loosen up the screws in order to get everything back on. But now you can just start putting on the screws by hand just to start it off. Make sure they're going in okay. Make sure that you put all of them in by hand to start off, and then you can start tightening it up later once you know that they're all flush and they're all going to go in nice and true. And don't forget about these ones on the outside, and to make sure that all the tabs are lined up and in the right places. Don't forget about little things like there's this little black piece that literally does nothing other than slide into this spot, so it's easier to attach. But you want them all to be lined up, otherwise there'll be a bulge in the wrong spot and things won't go together properly. Now all the screws are in. I recommend just counting them up as you're putting them in, just to make sure that you have them all and that they're all screwed on tight. You don't need to screw them on, like the Hulk or anything like that, because this is all plastic. You just need it to go until it doesn't really want to go anymore, and then you're good. Don't forget to put this foam piece back on. I recommend using an adhesive strip. It's kind of similar to what, if you've ever used command strips in your home or something like that to hang up towels or put up paintings or things like that. It's similar to that, where you peel both sides, put it on there, and then you can put it back on there. You don't want to actually glue this back on there, because don't forget there's those little tabs back there. If you notice, this bumps up a little bit on those tabs. You don't want to accidentally glue those tabs shut, because then if this ever has to come off again, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. The new grill that I put on had these chrome pieces already attached. These chrome pieces they're these little dudes right here. They are already attached. I don't know if you saw it earlier, but I showed you how to take them on and put them off. There's literally just a protrusion, like, oh, come on, focus. I swear this is the hardest part about these videos. Right there, you just push this little guy in, and it pops right in. Literally, that's all. These things are held on partially by the grill, partially by when they're clipped into the car. I don't know if you can see this here, this will push into the car. Those are those little tabs that we released earlier on the top. So it appears my shadow is in the way. Okay, so I don't know if I remember telling you about these clips. I did here, 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 and here, and I mentioned that this one here does not exist. I said that because when I was taking it off, it didn't. But that's because when this car got into its minor fender bender, it actually broke that tab there. So you can see the tabs here with the bumper off. They do exist on all 4 spots. It's just on this car, this tab was not there. So be aware of that when you're putting that back on. Those little tabs actually go right here on the little chrome grill pieces. So those do something. But yeah, you're gonna have to, once you have everything back on the grill, we're gonna put the backing piece and the license plate on. You don't have to put that on now. You can put that on when the bumper's on. I think that's actually what we're gonna do. So you can just lift the bumper back up and rest it back onto the car, and then move around the car gently, pushing in certain tabs as they go. You don't want to force anything too hard. But you do want to push, with a little bit of force to get the clips back in once you have everything lined up. Okay, here we are. Put the grill in front of the car. Now we're going to lift this grill back up, put it in place, and then slowly go around pushing the clips in as we go. You might not see when this is actually on there some of the clips that go in, but as long as you're careful about lining them up, they'll be able to pop back in. You can see that there's little tabs all around the headlight, for instance, where this will want to sit on. And of course, most of it's being held on by the clips and by the screws on the bottom and the top, but there are clips that hold it on around the headlight and things like that you're going to want to be a little careful of when you're putting it back in, so you don't break anything. You're going to see as you slowly start to put this back on, little gaps will be created. You're going to want to use both hands and slowly adjust things into the right place. If something feels funky on the other side, that side's actually kind of going on okay, but if it's starting to kind of feel a little funny, make sure to check both sides and maybe have someone else helping you put this back on. That way it goes on nice and smooth. So the bumper is not on completely, but some of the clips have started to go back on. I found it easiest as I was pushing the bumper back on, that on one side I can line this stuff up and then kind of get it lined up on the other side and actually start pushing these clips in around the headlight. It might go better a certain way when you're putting it on for you. If you notice that this kind of already came off or went back in, so I'm not going to take it off, but I put in this side as the other side was kind of fitted a little bit, and then I came to the other side, popped in the stuff around the headlight, and then went around and did this. Now I'm going to go around and just make sure that, this is in there. You just got to start, bolting everything back on. Make sure that it looks nice and flush on the top and bottom, all these holes lined up. I got my screwdriver going through all of the holes, all lined up. Maybe you might want to move it over a little bit so they all line up properly. Don't forget that there was these clips here and here and here and here that you want to put back into. And just because something looks lined up doesn't mean it is. I just had to pop these in because they weren't in. This one I told you doesn't have the right thing, but it was hard to hear there, but there was a little pop as this went back in its clip. And if you notice, when I pry on it with just a little bit of force, it doesn't really want to slide off. So that's all looking good. Top's looking good. I'm going to go around the bottom just to make sure everything's lined up, and then I'm going to start putting in all the clips and screws on the bottom and then the top. I've gone around and made sure that all the areas have all the tabs and stuff, all the holes and stuff look all aligned. Don't forget to come around here and make sure that these screws are going to be able to go into the right place, that this fender well is behind the bumper. Don't forget that if it's on the outside, that's actually not right. You want the bumper on the outside and the fender well on the inside. And then you can start putting the clips on the bottom. I put the clips on the bottom first, then the screws on the wheel well, and then put the stuff on the top. That way, once you finished everything on the bottom, you can start doing everything on the top, and then you'll be done after that. So now that the clips are all in on the bottom, put the screws on the sides there, we've just put the license plate cover back on. I'm going to put this rubber piece that goes on the top of this back on. Just got to line it up so that all the holes are in the right place. But definitely line it up so all the holes are in the right spot. Want to make sure that this big, thick rubber piece is facing up and to the front of the car. Again, lining up all the holes. Once all the holes are lined up and it's all in the right spot, we'll be able to put, where'd it go? This guy back on. So I'm just going to double check with both hands that everything's all lined up properly, and then I'll put this guy back on. So with all the holes lined up, we're going to be able to put this guy back on. Going to want to make sure that this hood release doesn't get in the way. Line everything up. You can see that this front portion is pretty forgiving with these clips here. But I'm going to want to grab one that goes through not only this big plastic part, but also the rubber piece behind it, which is going to be one of these guys right here. Going to grab, one of the two-piece clips. Make sure it's not getting caught on anything. Pop it in. That way at least we know it's starting to line up, and then we can start putting the rest of these back in, and then the rest of this rubber piece. Right, and this here is what it looks like with all the clips back on, all the plastic pieces put on, again, all the clips after the fact. Double checking everything looks good and flush. It's actually a used grill piece that I got, and looks brand new. In case you guys cared, this is a 2018 Honda Civic. You may recognize the vehicle from a previous video that I did an oil change on it for. It's a nice little car, I like it.